Hello, welcome to the Naissene Fairy World. My name's Mary Kathleen Wilson, and I've been making these little fairy dioramas, dwellings, fairy houses for a couple of years now. And I finally got it together, folks, and I put them on on my webpage. And you can be found at niacinefairy.com. And I have a lot of resources there. I talk about fairies and how Shakespeare used them. Believe it or not, there's a lot of research on fairy studies, and it's really fascinating because it's kind of a whole genre of the human element and how every culture has their own stories of little people. And it makes you wonder if maybe they don't really exist, folks. So with that, I can be reached at NaiceneFairy.com, and I'm Mary Kathleen Wilson. And I'm going to try to use, can you guys see this cursor? I hope you can see the cursor because I'm trying to record this. Now, if you look in in case you can't see the cursor, there's a tree in the very corner. This would be your left-hand corner, correct? And you can see that I built inside one of the fairy dwellings. There's the butterfly there, and this is a tree, and the tree sells, these tiny little spheres right here. What do you call them? Hey, what can I say? They're little tiny pendulums people might use to, ask questions for and things like that. But he also sells these little globes. In any case, next to it, directly next to it, is another large structure. That's the back of the North Star Fairy College. If you look on the way up on top, this is the medieval music room. Above the medieval music room, with all its little jewelry and a great tree that has marbles on it, is the apothecary. You can read apothecary going across. Now, I want you to kind of take a look at the texture on that. Can you see that's supposed to be looking like wood? And there's a way to get that color. And just like the ribs in the PowerPoint, backslide way over to your right where there are ribs, we create ribs inside these little fairy dwellings. And in the far left-hand corner, on the very top, if you look closely there, you will see a piece of wood off to one side, but you will see the same type of texture and how we've created ribs. And what you're looking at is the top floor of the Fairy Commons tower. And you can see those are miniature seed packets in the I call it the garden room. So let's move on. And that is the North Star Fairy College, and that was actually the first fairy dwelling that I ever made. And it was actually outside, and I eventually had to bring it in. But I had a lot of fun making that one. And I hope you guys are going to have fun making yours too. That's why we're here. Okay, so let's talk about all the materials you're going to need. Well, you're going to need some paintbrushes, that's for sure. Some scissors. And one note about acrylic paint, remember that the more you pay for your acrylic paint, the longer it's going to last. It's not going to fade. And it actually has more pigment in it, and that's kind of what you're after. But hey, maybe you're doing it with the kids and it doesn't have to last forever. Then I suggest you go to the dollar store, and they have acrylic paint there for $1. I know because I picked some up for my grandkids. Okay? And that's the way we want to do it. If it's, the whole point of doing this is to do it on the cheap. And hey, these are COVID times, folks. And if you can find a little happiness in creating these fairy dwellings, let's do it. Let's do it. And let's feed our creativity, and that can help to lead some wellness. Okay, get off your soapbox, Kathy, and let's get back into this. So we were looking at the materials list, folks. Don't skip on Mod Podge Glossy, okay? Because that really seals in the paint, and it really seals in the structure. So that is probably really, really, really important. So get your Mod Podge Glossy, and you can find that at Joann's or at Michael's. You're going to need some good masking tape that I pick up at the dollar store. Now for windows, I have, and you can see that where I'm talking in this little box down here, right above me is the plastic tops to, actually those are, that one that you're looking at right there, that is to the sushi. I buy sushi at Sprouts for $5 on Wednesdays all the time, and that's the top of the container, and I keep that because I create the windows out of that. Now you can use anything you want for the windows. You can even use glass if you want to. You can glue gun it in and everything, but I use these plastics because it's lightweight and it's cheap and it's free. Hello. Anyway, so we're going to need an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife, whatever works for you. You're going to need extra cardboard because, you know, you may want to create a fairy walkway. You may want to create a balcony or such. And what we're going to be using this time, folks, is a 1 foot by 18-inch cardboard box. We're also going to be making a tower. So you're going to have a cardboard oatmeal container that we'll need. Empty it, make it free of any food or anything. And toilet paper rolls can be used, and we'll show you how to use those. Hot glue gun or super glue, we're going to need those to fix those windows and make sure that they stay in. Newspapers, a lot of newspapers, and as you can see, we're going to be cutting them into strips. If you've never done paper mache, you're going to have to cut these into strips. 3 inches by a foot, that's a good start. And I use aluminum foil to create the tree ribs. And the reason I'm using the heavy duty, folks, is because they stand up to the wet paper mache, to 2 layers of paper mache, and you want it to stand up. Alrighty, so here's the box. There's the oatmeal box, and there's a paper roll from the aluminum foil. Haven't cut any windows yet. I haven't put any creative designs in there yet, but what I am showing you, and I am so glad you're able to see this, is the where I've cut up the oatmeal box and where I've cut up the paper roll, and then I've pushed them back against the side of the box. And we want to build up those edges. We don't want it to look, we want it to look nice, folks. So get your oatmeal box out, and they're both about 12 inches. And here's your measuring tape here. In any case, that's the second. So now about putting those windows in. Now, there's something you need to realize. Depending on the size and how your window fits in, create a 1/2 inch seam allowance on there, or 1/4 of an inch, or you use your judgment. But when you push it through, remember you're going to be pushing it through a hole that's been paper mached with 2 layers. So it's going to be a nice tight fit. So what happens, Kathy, if you cut it too big? Well, you know what? That's okay, because you can always put a piece of cardboard along there or some foil on there to cover it and to tighten it up. Those windows are not going to go in until the whole paper mache box is dried. So it's okay. Make your mistakes. It's all right. But do your best to make sure that those fit in, and test it. Once you cut it out, stick that window back in there and make sure there's an allowance around it. Okay, now we're going to get creative. Can you see where it says cut out right there, a little exclamation point? Okay, that's where I took the oatmeal and we've masked it up. We've taped it up really tight now. I've even created a little floor in that oatmeal box on the bottom, and I've taped that down too. And I've cut out an area in there because that's going to be open. I'm going to put a loft in there. I'm going to take another piece of cardboard and actually create a loft, and you'll see that loft later on. I'm also going to, on one side, I'm going to create a fairy walkway. Now this isn't going to make and here again, I'm in the way. I wish there was a way to move. Let's see if there's a way. Can I move myself out of here? No, I'm stuck. They've stuck me in the corner. In any case, there are more chances to see a copy of this fairy walkway. But what I did was I've cut it, but I did not cut the bottom part. so that it's created a flap and the flap folds down. I create some corbels to put underneath it to support it, and I mask those corbels with tape. Now, if you have any questions, because we move along kind of fast on this, you can always email me at calendarstick54@gmail.com. Or you can go to the website at Naissene Ferry, Naissene, Naissene, Ferry, Fary.com. And there's a comment section, and there's a place to sign up also if you want to receive the monthly blog, the blogs when they come out. Go for it, guys. Ask me the questions you want to. And if necessary, we'll do a phone call. Okay? So here we're starting to create, if we want that tower intact, we'll create a ferry walkway and even a balcony. And we'll talk about that balcony in a little bit. Well, here we are, and those blue rectangles there are simulations for where I've cut windows out. And of course where I've cut out the front of the box. Now, if you see over on one side, on side 2 where the oatmeal box is at, is where I've created a balcony. And the balcony was made out of a 12-foot by 6-inch, 4-inch piece of cardboard, and then I put sides on it, and I taped it all up with just masking tape, and it held. And then I put masking tape on top. So I've created what I'm going to be calling a ferry walkway. I'm going to be creating the oatmeal box tower with a loft in it, and I'm creating what else? That's really it, folks. So balcony, ferry tower with a loft, and then the walkway, which is a flap being cut down. So about that tree rib texture, well, what we're doing here is we took our heavy duty foil, we're crumpling it up, and we attach it to. And can you see how it runs from the front of the box all the way to the back? And we want to create a little bit of, a rhythm going here. Make sure that, if it runs from the back, just continue it to the back. And this is the back of the box, and I wanted to show you how the ribs would look. And how we put ribs on that corner there of the back, because we don't want any hard surfaces, hard corners at all on this. Like, again, if you do have any questions, go ahead to the comment section on my website at naiseneferry.com. Okay, so after we've got the skeleton fixed up, we have where our windows are going to go. Windows are not in yet, they're open. We're going to be doing the paper mache. This is what the paper mache is beginning to look like. And now you finally get to see how that ferry walkway is looking. And with that ferry walkway, that was just a flap that I cut. And as the flap came down, I put 2 little corbels underneath it, and I taped them. And then I created an arch on top of that walkway as it folds down. That is side 2. You can also see how the paper mache is coming along and how that window is being covered. Over on the back exterior, you can see how those ribs are flowing from the front to the back and how they are now being covered. And now you can see how those ribs are forming. You can also see how the balcony is coming into being. And remember, that balcony, when you put that in there, you're going to have to cut it in kind of a curve so that it goes around the tower. So that's how we're doing it, folks. Finally got a good look at how that ferry walkway is going. Okie dokie. In the middle there, you can see that is the tower, and I finally put a loft in there. And you cannot, I'm in the way again with this mechanism here. It's the program, folks. I didn't realize that, but you can see how I'm beginning to paper mache it. And that's the top of the oatmeal box there. So there's kind of like a mini outside balcony for your ferries. Over on the walkway, you can see greater detail how that was put together, how that flap was brought down. Again, it's up to you. Whatever your imagination comes up with. You can put a skylight on. You can do anything you want to with this. It's all about you. Okay, here's something that you need to have an eye on for. This is what happens if you can see a little bit closely where that blue arrow is at. What happens is, even if you do a great job on the paper mache, folks, what can happen is that it'll pull away as it dries. So either glue that or put more paper mache on there, but make sure that's nice and smooth, because we want it completely nice and smooth for painting. In the middle, you can see the balcony front. I believe at this point, this one is still wet. And you can see how I've smoothed it out and how I've tucked the paper mache underneath the bottom of the fairy dwelling. So it's nice and clear and smooth. You can see the balcony, you can see the loft, and in other photos coming up, you'll be able to see what the fairy walkway looks like. But look at the ribs, and you can see how it's all kind of coming together. But remember, those seams really bind your seams really well. You can glue them with your glue gun, whatever you need. Okay, let's look at some details. So we've been doing paper mache now. It's still kind of wet. We're looking at the interior of side one. Can you see the buildup on that window there? That buildup is necessary to make a tight fit with your windows as we put them in with our glue gun. And let's see, the exterior back. Let's take a look at the exterior back over on the right side. You can see the window there, and you can see how that's looking in the back. A little bit texture. You can see a little bit, but the corners are not, real sharp or anything. They're nice and rounded with the ribs of the tree ribs. And this is the other side of that window on the outside, and you can see looking in. And what you're actually looking in, if you look real closely, is that's the balcony on the inside. And the reason I'm providing, so much detail here is you're going to have a lot of questions, and you can either make one that looks like this, or when you make your own, but you can go back and I'm not going to be there to help you, so you're going to have to, wing it, guys. So that's what the fairy walkway, that's what it's looking like. That's still wet. That's not dried yet. And in the center, you can see this is the tower on side two. You can't really see a lot there. That's why we have exterior side detail tower several ways. And now there's also an angle shot here where you can see the top of the tower looking into the fairy dwelling. And I do have a cursor here, but I'm not sure if it's working because I used this before and it did not work. So I hope it works this time. Okay, oh my God, we're at the end, folks. Look, it's completely dried. It's ready for painting. So what you'll do now before you look at the next video, and the next video will be about how to paint your paper mache fairy dwelling and insert the windows. And the reason that I want to leave the windows till later is because we want this to be completely dry. Don't put the windows in. If you do put them in, you're going to, look. You can put the windows in if you want to. I'm not going to see it. I don't care. It's about you. The reason that I wanted to give you some directions on the fairy windows is that there's ways to hide stuff. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of ways to get that thing in there. In any case, have your hot glue gun ready, and we will see you at the next video on how to paint your paper mache fairy dwelling. And folks, have fun with this. We are during difficult times right now. It's COVID time. And be good to your neighbor, wear your mask, and enjoy yourself and get away from it all. This is Kathy Wilson, Mary Kathleen Wilson, and I'm signing off. Any questions, remember NaiceneFairy.com. And visit the site anyway, because you'll love it. I've got a lot of great stuff on there. So, we shall see you the next time here at the Naissene Fairy World. Bye, folks.